Like most people that aren't rich, I oftentimes found myself wishing I was, so then I could order Uber without feeling guilty about it, or not have to worry about how I'm going to pay my bills the next week, or go on vacation and actually not worry about anything and not just obsess about all the stuff I have to think about when I get back home from being on vacation. That all sounds like very nice things, but then at the same time, I see certain things happening, certain events where I'm like, wow, the fact that I'm not rich had saved me from this situation. For example, things like hikers trapped from an avalanche on Mount Everest. You know where you don't get trapped by an avalanche on Mount Everest? Right here. You know how much it cost me to not get trapped by an avalanche on Mount Everest? Nothing. I'm right here in safety, no avalanches in my vicinity. Because the idea of climbing Mount Everest in the first place is some rich shit. Only rich people can imagine doing that, dude. I'm so not rich. I don't even know anybody that thinks about the idea of going to Mount Everest. It has never come up in casual conversation of someone be like, you know what? One of my aspirations, one of my goals is to climb Mount Everest. We all know that's not going to happen. And we all know that we don't want to do that. There are certain activities in the world, right? Including hiking big ass mountains, including caving where you go into tiny holes, including going down in a submarine into a place where you shouldn't be, just out of curiosity. There are certain things like that that fit into the rubric of you have never felt any sort of danger in your life. You've only ever been safe and sheltered for your entire life. No risk of losing anything, which is why you need to put yourself in a position to compensate for that, where you can actually be in a situation that you are risking your life in. If you know how it feels in real life to actually be in danger and actually be on the brink of losing everything, you're not hiking up Mount Everest. You're not going into a tiny little hole where just your shoulders barely fit and you need to move like this, like shrug yourself through with the hopes that you're going to come out on the other side and the chance of going down the wrong hole and getting stuck and dying. There's no backing up. If I can't back up out of somewhere, dude, it's like cats. Cats don't go through anything that they can't fit their head through first. A cat will always check if it can fit its head through whatever it is, like if it's like a railing or something, they'll always try to push their head through it, and if the head doesn't fit, they don't quit. They don't go through the shit. Because a cat knows that its head is bigger than the rest of its body, so if the head can fit, the rest can go through, right? So occasionally you'll get a fat cat that just can't fit. It's funny, whatever, but that's not the standard. Humans, we don't have that. Our heads are obviously smaller than our shoulders, so we don't have any way to check if we're gonna fit or not. And that's the only thing that could have saved us from the insanity that is caving. The insanity that is going into somewhere that you can't back up out of. If I can't back up out of it, I don't want to go inside. If I can't back out of somewhere and you are fully aware that if you keep going forward, there's a chance that you can't go forward anymore, why risk that position? You can only risk that position if there's nothing else you've ever risked in your life. No other risk ever. Dude, the billionaires that went down in the submarine, they weren't scientists. They weren't trying to figure anything out. That was their own curiosity. And bro, I don't care about all the shit of like scientists were warning them like their submarine wasn't ready or they used a GameCube controller as the... I don't care about any of that. Nobody who isn't rich thinks about that in the first place. Nobody who isn't rich will have the correct circumstances to dive that deep. Nobody. And then if you get the chance, dude, you could offer somebody who is broke, you could offer them a trip in a submarine down to see the Titanic. They will decline. Cause what the fuck, why would I go down there? What is my goal of going down there? I can watch videos, we have YouTube. You can look up how it looks. I don't need to be actively down there just to see it, take a couple pictures. And I've been around rich circles. I've been around people who are rich. They do things just to say that they have done things. They don't care about the actual thing. Because if you're rich, you know you can do it anyway. Who cares? But you can be able to say that you have done it. So these people, they will go climb Mount Everest. They will go into deep, tiny little caves for two reasons alone. One, to get the feeling of an actual meaning of life, like that your life has any sort of fragility, or is that the word? They need to feel not invincible. And that's the only way they can do that. That's the only way they can beat something. If you're rich, especially if you're born rich, and you grow up rich and you're living an adult rich life, you need something to show you that you actually achieved something in your life. If you born rich, you didn't achieve anything. Our main achievements, broke people's biggest achievements are always big checks. Big checks. And then as a broke person, if you can't get more money, you learn to appreciate smaller achievements or just different achievements. You learn to appreciate winning in your local softball game, or you learn to appreciate hitting a strike when you're bowling or something like that. You learn to appreciate the little things. Rich people don't have that because they've already done everything. You can only appreciate everything so many times. So they need to do the most outlandish, extreme shit to feel any sort of fragility in their lives, to feel any sort of achievement once they have achieved it. Because if you climb to Mount Everest, you're at the top of Mount Everest, you're miserable, you're cold, you're hurting, you can't feel your body anymore. You've seen 50 dead bodies on the way up here. You got trapped in a fucking avalanche for the past 3 days and decided to keep climbing for whatever reason. You only do that so that you feel a sense of, oh, I accomplished something. I actually achieved something. And then you go talk to your other rich people about what you achieved. I was at Mount Everest. Good job, guy. Broke people don't think about that. People that aren't rich don't think about that. Dude, I am in such a not rich area that I don't even know anybody who's ever suggested the idea of ever wanting to go to Mount Everest. That has never been on anybody's bucket list that I've ever met in real life. And I've been around rich people, but they weren't that rich where that was a plan. Dude, I had a whole fake conversation with a real estate agent, him talking about, yeah, I bought my third apartment for $3 million last month, and then I was all stressed out because they weren't sending me the contracts to sign and stuff. And I was like, oh, really? I got a new trash can. It opens up, like I just got to put my hand in front of it and it opens up. That was my achievement in that conversation. If I meet somebody that goes, yeah, man, I squeezed through a cave a couple weeks ago, I'd be like, bro, are you mentally insane? These activities are all hardcore signs of privilege. You had the privilege of living in the utmost safety, the utmost security, and the utmost lowest, which I don't even know if that makes sense grammatically, the utmost lowest sense of risk ever. I would even go as far as say like extreme snowboarding. So going up and down hills, bro, hills and mountains in general are not places for broke people. If you don't have money, you're not going up or down a hill. That is not in your forte. That's not what we're doing. I ain't got the time for that, dude. How long does it take to climb Mount Everest? Total expedition time can range from 6 to 10 weeks. You're taking 2 months off to climb a mountain? I can't take 2 months off to do anything. I ain't got the time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Dude, I'm dumbfounded. You can afford the time and the money to take 2 months off to climb Mount Everest. That may be only climbing up to the top. What about getting down? What about reacclimatizing to the real life, dude? When I go on vacation, I've set myself a max for 10 days, and I need an extra 2 or 3 days after I come back to get back and used to not being on vacation. So I can go a total of 2 weeks max before I need to get back to the grind, before I need to go back to actually caring about my responsibilities in my life. If you can take 2 months off of your life to do some shit where you risk your own life, insane. That is completely unimaginable. How much does it cost to climb Mount Everest? Climbing Mount Everest costs between $30,000 and $200,000 or more. With higher end luxury trips with more Western guys, and oxygen can cost over $100,000. They're climbing without oxygen? Breathing is more expensive? That was free. They are paying to breathe. Didn't the Bible warn people about this? Not to go religious, and I'm not religious, but wasn't the point of the Tower of Babylon to keep people down here? I wish the Bible was true in certain stances, because if somebody climbed to the top of Mount Everest and came down speaking a completely different language, that would be hilarious. Imagine you're walking up Mount Everest talking to your buddies like, yeah, last week I was surfing in Dubai, and now can you imagine that now I'm talking, and they start speaking some random shit just out of nowhere, and the person talking to them starts speaking like, dude, just complete nonsense. That would be so funny. Dude, if it had actual incentive, let's say you could unlock a language by climbing to Mount Everest. You don't lose your previous language, you just automatically, we need more video game type succession in real life. You take 2 months going up Mount Everest, and therefore you learn 5 years of Duolingo. You climb to the top of Mount Everest, and now you can speak Japanese, dude. That would actually be worth something. You dive down to the bottom where the Titanic was, and now you can breathe underwater. Amazing. Then it might actually be worth the price. How much do those billionaires spend to go down to the bottom of the ocean? Trips that off to the Titanic wreck cost passengers $250,000 per person. $250,000 per person. That means it costs $250,000 to go learn the ability to breathe underwater. Worth it. Still not something us brokies would be able to do. Maybe you could get cheaper versions. Maybe you could buy Titanic water elixir that lets you breathe underwater for 5 minutes and it costs $500. Let's do that, right? You can climb down a hole that was, the tightest point was just half a centimeter bigger than your broadest point of your body. You need to absolutely torture yourself to get through it. But once you come out at the end, you never have to use the bathroom again. What do they do when they have to use the bathroom in these caves? Do they just piss themselves in the cave? How long are they in these caves? I pee a lot. I drink a lot of water. Well-hydrated boy. I couldn't last in this cave longer than maybe 30 minutes without having to pee. And then on top of that, I have to pee when I'm bored. I gotta pee right now. Me talking about pee made me have to pee. I'm not making it down this cave, which actually, if I'm in a cave and I'm stuck and I give it a little bit of that pss, pss, maybe that'll lubricate the cave a little bit. Maybe that'll help me, do a little wriggle. I don't know the strategies that they use. Joggers, they shit themselves because that's just what you got to do apparently. I would never find myself in that position. I'm never putting myself in a position where shitting yourself is part of the expectation. Why? That's such a ridiculous thing. Rock climbing, extreme rock climbing, bouldering, where they don't even have the latches and stuff. privileged as fuck. You are so hyper privileged if you are camping on the side of a mountain and it's an inverted angle. Oh my God. You're never gonna find me on the side of a mountain. You'll never find me that deep in a submarine. The deepest I'll go for like underwater is to look at like, you know, a couple corals, maybe like a turtle or two, maybe see a dolphin. I'm not going any deeper than that. If I dive so deep that I can't swim back up to the surface without suffocating, we're too deep underwater. We're too deep. And I think it all boils down to this. If I am ever in a position that risks my death and I can't get myself out of that position, I'm not gonna put myself in that position in the first place. And yes, me shitting myself is the equivalent to me dying. And a lot of people that partake in these activities are like, well, you're just afraid, you're just scared, bro. Yeah. You're supposed to be. That's the point. And I'm not some sort of adrenaline junkie that wants to feel scared. If you've really been scared in your life, if you have actually feared for your life, you've been in life and death situation, that is not a feeling you want to recreate. And that is why the only people that are willing to go in these situations are the ones who have not experienced in real life. They have never experienced the fear of losing your life in a natural circumstance. That's why they put themselves in these circumstances. That's why I think most rich people will die if we ever get to an apocalypse moment. Because the moment they see a zombie, they're gonna get all happy. They're gonna get all hyped up. Like, yeah, dude, it's finally time. Let's go fuck them up. Like, no, bro, close all your doors, lock all your windows. That was supposed to be the other way around. Close all your windows, lock all of your doors, barricade everything, hide. Don't run towards the danger, dude. Don't try to hug the zombie. Don't try to therapy the zombie back into being a normal human being. Your ear's gone. The moment you talk to a zombie like, hey man, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, I'm your friend. Nose, bye-bye. Ankles, ciao. Peace out. You're done. We don't have time for this. Offer me, anybody out there who's rich enough to offer me a free trip to Mount Everest, and you will see me happily decline. Dude, I already get worried when a car is driving too fast. Stop, guy. A friend of mine offered me to drive his motorcycle, and it was a kind of nice motorcycle. No. I know I could drive a motorcycle, but if I just scratch that thing, I can't afford to get a repaint job, bro. I'm sorry. My life is not in my pocket. Childish Gambino had a song over a decade ago called Fat People, fat with a PH. And the hook is like, fat people do fat things. Rich people do rich things. Broke people do broke things. Rich people will do broke things like Charlie D'Amelio working in the Walmart, you know, for publicity. Sure, broke people ain't doing rich shit. You can offer us some rich shit. Certain rich shit will do. You know, give me a little shopping spree. You know what I'm saying? You know, give me some money, just straight out. Well, why are we beating around the bush with the activities? Give me the money so that I can choose my activities. I'm not gonna fuck it up. I know how to respect my money, how to take care of it. You know, launder shit. You know, I guess it is what it is. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. So if you're rich, tell me down in the comments, would you ever think about doing any of these things? Do you know anybody who has done these things? If you're broke and you know somebody who's done these things, tell me if they're rich or they're broke and somehow just got their opportunity. I doubt it. If you are broke, please tell me down below if you would partake in any of these things if you got the chance. If you are rich, tell me that you don't partake in these things and why. If you like this video, please like down below, subscribe if you want to see more, check out my other videos, and I'll see you next time. Peace.